Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday again, so we have another Sunday school lesson for you. I hope you've all had great weeks. I know we had a lot of rain this week, but I hope that you were able to enjoy some of the warm, sunny days we've had in the last couple days. All right, but let's go ahead and jump into the lesson. You might remember a couple weeks ago we talked about how Israel and Judah split into two countries, but neither of them listened to God the way they were supposed to. And so Israel was captured by the Assyrians and taken to their country, and Judah was captured by the Babylonians and taken to their country. So today we're going to talk about some of the people who had lived in Judah but who were taken to Babylon to serve the Babylonians. And the king of Babylon at that time, when the people of Judah were taken to Babylon, his name was King Nebuchadnezzar. That's King Nebuchadnezzar. It's a really long name, but it's an easy one to remember because it's so different and unique. So King Nebuchadnezzar asked his chief court official to take some of the young men from the royal family of Judah and some of the young men from the noble families who were young and strong and didn't have anything wrong with them, and to bring them to Judah and to have them study to serve the Babylonians. So, among those people who were brought to Babylon to learn the language and to study with the wise men were a boy named Daniel and his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Now, we might know them by different names because when we tell Bible stories about Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, a lot of times we call them Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because those are the names that the Babylonians gave to them. But for this story, we're going to call them by their Israelite names, by the names that they went by when they lived in Judah. So Daniel and his friends were supposed to live in Babylon for 3 years, learning how to speak their language and learning the stories of the country. And then after that, they would be put into the king's service. So basically, they would be wise men or advisors to the king after that. And every day, the king gave them food from his table. So food that was so good that it was supposed to be meant for royalty. And it was things like wines and meats and all things like that. But Daniel and his friends didn't want to eat that because that's not what the diet that the Lord had told them to eat. So they asked the head court official who was in charge of their training if they could eat vegetables for their diet like the Lord had told them to instead of the meats and the wine that the king provided. But the head court official said, if you do that, then you won't be as strong and as presentable as the other people in this training program. And the king will be mad at me because you won't be as useful to him. So Daniel and his friends made a deal with the head court official. And they said, if you let us eat vegetables and water for 10 days, and we look worse, then we will eat what you want us to eat. But if we look better, we can eat what we want to eat. So the head court official agreed, and after 10 days, when he saw that Daniel and his friends looked better than any of the other young men that had been brought from Judah, the ones who were still eating the king's food, he decided that all of the young men should follow the diet that Daniel and his friends were following, the one that God told them to follow. So God gave understanding of literature and all different kinds of studies to Daniel and his friends, and he even says that Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. And at the end of their training, at the end of those 3 years, they were brought before the king, and the king talked to them. And the Bible says that the king found that none were as good, as well trained, or as intelligent as Daniel and his friends. So they entered his service and became some of his advisors. Now the king started having dreams that bothered him and kept him from being able to sleep well. So he called some of the magicians and enchanters and sorcerers and astrologers to his court to tell him what his dreams meant. And he told them, "I have had a dream, and I don't know what it means." And the astrologers said, "Of course, tell us what your dream was, and we will tell you what it meant." But the king said, "I want to make sure that you can actually tell me what my dream meant, and the only way I'll be able to trust you is if I don't tell you what my dream was and you tell me what it was, and then you tell me what it meant." And the astrologers and the magicians said, "That's not fair. We can't interpret your dream without you telling us what your dream was. Nobody could do that." This made the king angry, and so he ordered that all of the astrologers and wise men in his court be killed. And because Daniel and his friends were part of the king's service now, that meant they were supposed to be killed too. When the head of the guard came to tell Daniel and his friends what the king had ordered, Daniel asked him, "Why has the king ordered such a harsh punishment?" So the head of the guard told Daniel about the fact that the king had had a dream and that he wanted the astrologers and magicians to tell him what the dream was and then interpret it. And when they couldn't, the king had ordered that they all be killed. So Daniel gathered his friends and they all prayed. And they prayed to God, and then God gave Daniel the answers that he was looking for. He told Daniel what the king's dream was, what had happened in the dream, and what the king's dream meant. So Daniel was taken before the king to explain the king's dream. And Daniel said, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he is asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come. Your dreams and visions that pass through your mind as you are laying in bed are these." Then Daniel told the king what God said the king's dream had been. He said, "The king dreamed that there was a statue. He was a great, mighty statue, and his head was made of gold, his chest and arms were made of silver, his belly was made of bronze, his legs made of steel, and his feet were a mixture of baked clay and steel." Then a rock that was not cut by human hands came, and it hit the statue on its feet, and it smashed it until the gold and silver and bronze and steel lay all over the floor, and then a wind came and blew all of the pieces away. Then the rock that had smashed the statue into bits turned into a huge mountain that filled up the entire earth. Then Daniel said, "This is what your dream means. The Lord has given you power and dominion, and he has placed all mankind and beasts and birds in the sky, wherever they live, under your rule. You rule over all of them. You, King Nebuchadnezzar, are the head that's made of gold. And after your kingdom, another kingdom will arise that will not be as good as yours. Then a third kingdom, one made of bronze, will rule the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom. It will be as strong as iron, and it will smash and break other nations into pieces just like iron smashes and breaks things. But just as you saw that the feet and the toes of the statue were partially made of clay and partially made of iron, this kingdom will be just like that. It will be partially strong like iron, but partially brittle and weak like clay. It will be a divided kingdom that will not unite. And in the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or left to another people. It will crush all of those kingdoms and bring them to an end, just like the rock broke the statue. But this kingdom will endure forever. That's why the rock turned into a mountain. But it will not be ruled by human hands. It will be ruled by God. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. This dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy." When Daniel said all of this, the king fell on the ground before him, honored him, and ordered that an offering and incense be given to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." Then he gave Daniel a high position and many gifts. At Daniel's request, the king allowed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, as we talked about earlier, to become administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained at the royal court. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. I think that it's really cool to learn about these people who, even though they were young and even though they were taken from their homes, which must have been scary, were still able to listen to God and to reveal mysteries to a king, and in such a way that it even made the king believe in God. So I hope that you enjoyed this story. I'm sure we'll talk more about Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the future. But for this week, try to enjoy your week, have fun, and remember what we talked about today. Bye, guys.